Good afternoon, viewers of the Civic Space TV. My name is Ninsiima, and I welcome you on this beautiful Monday of the Labor Day as we celebrate the workers today in Uganda. And we'll be talking about this Labor Day's theme, which is employee safety and health at workplaces. But joining me is a great panel that I will invite to introduce themselves. And I will start with you, Ronnie. Please introduce yourselves and what you do.
Thank you so much, Lucky. My name is Ronnie Mukundane. I work with UAERA. UAERA is the Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies. It's an association that is for the companies that have been licensed by the government of Uganda to source and place Ugandans abroad, specifically for employment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. Let me welcome Dr. Nduhuura to introduce himself.
Good afternoon, viewers. My name is Dr. Elicana Nduhuura, and I'm a medical doctor at Dr. Mav Medical Center. That's in Bulenga, Wakiso, Uganda. And outside that, I work as a global health student with the National Institutes of Health in a partnership with the International Labor Initiative.
Thank you so much. Viewers of the Civic Space TV, it is community show once again. And we all know that the environment in which someone works in contributes a lot to his health. So maintaining a healthy labor force is therefore essential to the production and sustainability of every employee. But before we look into all that, I want to ask my panel, what do you think are the causes of injuries at work? For starters, I mean, why should we think about the safety if there are no injuries? Ronnie, let me start with you.
Thank you so much, Lucky. Of course, when a person goes to work, basically it means the person is exposed. Should it be here within our country or even outside this country? And when a person is exposed, then of course that means the person is prone to have an injury. And that's why it's key to have a discussion regarding the measures put in place or those that should be put in place to ensure the safety of that particular worker. And that is my view, or basically that's how I look at how the issue of health or safety of the worker is concerned in relation to employment.
Thank you so much. Dr. Elicana, tell me about those injuries at work.
Yeah, so the injuries at work, a bit to first talk about the causes. Usually the health working environment, the arrangement of the workplace. If we go to, let's say, a company, like let me point out like Hima Cement Factory, a factory in this case. Usually the health worker, the people who work there are not specifically health workers. Let's say the laborers, they usually need protective gear. So if you enter an oven heating area without gumboots, then you're liable to injury. Or if you don't have the hearing protection aid, you're liable to the injury. Then if you go to your office, for example, you're lucky in your office, the kind of chair you have, it can predispose you to an injury. Because if it's not comfortable, if it's not checked regularly and you find it is faulty, then anytime you're liable to a fall or even spinal injuries because of the sitting posture that you're going to be on. So the injuries usually it's the workplace environment, the location, the arrangements, and then even the workers, their care, how much care do they take onto their work? And then to your question, as workers, we need to embrace the measures. The protection is the basic component. I remember the International Labour Organization, which guides all us the workers, in its first publication done 3rd June 1959, usually puts occupational health program. So the occupational health program looks at the, it also looks at the physical and mental health of the person working, that's the laborer, in this case, and then puts into extra consideration of what happens in case there is like an injury, what is done, a compensation program, a referral for this person to be worked on, to be treated, and then in case maybe they lose their lives, what can be done? That is it.
Thank you so much. I'd just like to pick just a few of what you've just said. You talked about the mental health, and then you talked about the sitting postures. Some of us, we work in these beautiful offices that have rotating chairs, and then you find a worker putting the legs on the table, swinging around. Is that healthy, Dr. Elicana, before you go off?
Yeah, it's healthy. The most important focus on this chair is its alignment, because a sitting posture of a person should be straight. It should be straight up in a chair. So when you look at the sacrum, now this is like a buttock area, should be matching with the head area. So it should be straight. If you put a ruler on your back, your buttock, otherwise the swinging has no problem. When you're free, just turn around, break the monotony. It's very addition.
Thank you so much. I love the very addition part. Okay, Ronnie, what did you talk about the mental challenges, the mental health challenges that we have at work? Because you will hear a worker say, I hate Mondays. Like, people are stressed on Mondays. People are stressed every other day, by the way. It's not only Mondays, which is just like, I think people just hate the Monday blues and all that. But talking about the mental health challenges at workplaces, especially the stress, the lifestyle, how is it where you are? And do you think that is a risk to the labor environment?
Thank you so much, Lucky. Of course, that's kind of cultural, and maybe one would say it's how a human being is set up. I don't want to say us in particular, but how a human being is set up. People want to earn, not necessarily putting in a lot of energy. So that's why most people hate Mondays anyway, and everyone normally looks forward to Friday to be able to go off and look forward to a public holiday and all that kind of. But speaking into the space where I work, or maybe the people that we relate with, the workers who go abroad for work, when it comes to mental issues, it's a fact that we've received some of those cases, and most of them are related to cultural shocks. We do take our people through what we call orientation, and it's mandatory by law for whoever is being externalized, specifically those who are going to do domestic work. They undergo what we call 14 days orientation. And in this 14 days orientation, they are taken through culture, of course, plus other things like financial literacy, contract appreciation and all that. But the most important thing is culture. You will agree with me that most people who we externalize come from more or less a village setting. And that aside, the Ugandan way of doing things, the Ugandan environment, the Ugandan weather, the culture in depth differs so much from where these people are taken to work, specifically in the Middle East. So when they reach there, even when they have been taken through this, through the 14 days, they still get cultural shocks. They reach a place, they are told, of course, the weather, of course, really differs from where they are from, what they are used to here in Uganda, for example, the food itself, but also the way people take themselves. Now, that creates a gap in terms of missing home. And the period we're normally talking about, the contract is 2 years. So you find that sometimes one has gone to work because they're looking at money itself, without necessarily looking at the other things that require you to make that money. Meaning you have to sacrifice, meaning you have to adopt to a new setting and all that. So people get what we call cultural shocks. And these cultural shocks, once the person gets them early, or once they're not treated, or once the person is not talked to very well, leads to kind of mental breakdown. But also what they have left at home. For example, how their earnings are being utilized here. We've had cases where some of the ladies who have come back in a not so good mental health, not so good mental state, have had it coming from how what they were sending home, or what they were getting, the answers they were getting from home in terms of their investment, in terms of the intended investment from their earnings. So it has so much, maybe our side of the sector could, I would say, slightly differ from what we're used to in Uganda here, but majorly from our side, it's normally attributed to cultural shock.
Thank you so much. So talking of all that, do we have occupational safety and health management policies, laws and regulations at our workplaces? Let me come back to you, Ronnie.
Thank you so much. Luckily, UAERA is supervised directly by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, and of course falls under the Department of Labour, which is headed by a director, and it's the same director who also heads the OSH, which is the Occupational Safety and Health. So I can say on policy that department or that area is observed. And maybe the other thing I could add on is that before, for example, they license a recruitment company or a training center, in this case, the team from the OSH department inspects the premises to ensure that the setting of this particular office or accommodation or training center, as it could be, is in line with what is required. That is at the local level. But at the international level, one could say there are gaps when it comes to specifically our sector. You will agree with me that for our people or our companies to externalize Ugandans, specifically those, for example, going to do domestic work, do this on the background of a bilateral labor agreement that has been signed between the government of Uganda and that of the host country, and this particular case, Saudi Arabia. Meaning there are areas that have agreed on under which the Ugandan worker is supposed to operate. One of the biggest challenges or discussions we've had with the Ministry of Gender, which to us looks as a gap, is that we've had Ugandans who have incurred or have had injuries in the destination country, for example, Saudi Arabia. And these injuries, some of them could require compensation. But for this compensation to take place, an OSH team has to give a report. There was a particular case where a lady fell from a storage building. She was taken to hospital the other side. She was taken care of, but the family and herself preferred to be brought back to Uganda. But when she came back here, and of course she was pushing for compensation and all that, the team from the Ministry of Gender, specifically the OSH or Occupational Safety and Health team, then remember a lady, a doctor, Dr. Luwade, if I remember very well, Dr. Luwade, took on this particular case. But the issue of compensation hit a snag because a report was expected to have come from the destination country, specifically from the OSH team. So that's why I'm saying when it comes to international levels, one, for example, as the practitioners could say there are gaps. And luckily, we've had a new bilateral labor agreement just put in place, hardly a month now. It has been renewed. So we believe the joint technical committee that is going to be formed, which will do the work of supervising or ensuring that terms and conditions in this particular bilateral are being adhered to. One of those should be looking at the safety of the workers, and even when they get injuries or when they get into any disorder, their compensation or what should be done should be, this committee should ensure that what should be done is put in place. So that a particular person on the other side, maybe an OSH department in the Ministry of Labor from Saudi Arabia, for example, is tasked to produce a report to inspect the place where this particular Ugandan worker could have had an injury, and be able to issue a report against which compensation is to be received. Thank you.
Quite diverse. I'll just come back to you in a bit as we talk about the labor force, especially with the people who work abroad. And I'm glad you work in that sector. Dr. Elicana, do we have decent workplaces where we are?
Yeah, decency at the workplace, it depends on where you work, and also depends on the kind of service you're giving in this labor industry. Now, I don't know. When you go to the health sector, for example, where I'm directly concerned, where I go every day, I've worked both in government and the private sector. Now, in the government sector setting, a decent workplace is this place where, one, if that's a referral, we have specialized departments. We have ward for women, ward for men, ward for children. Then we have disposal points where we put rubbish. In this case, we have different wastes. We have dangerous wastes, for example, needles. Those are very dangerous. Then we have gloves, which have touched, for example, blood. Those ones who have also where we put them. Then we have where we put like kavera, these other papers, these other less harmful wastes. Now, because of the resources, the constraints we have in the government budget, you'll go in a government facility, for example, you find there are only 2 bins. The bin that is having kavera and papers and gloves is just combined. And then maybe you have another one which has these other sharps, something like needles. So in this case, the gloves which are supposed to be kept separate from the kavera, they are being kept together. And the cleaner who just comes to pick all these things is going to pick them at once. So the cleaner is not safe. Then when you go to the Basau, the health workers themselves, you need gloves to touch on a patient. You need to be with a mask. You need to have goggles when you're operating in theater. So time and again, while I was a medical student, for example, would have been in theater working on a mother delivering, and you have no goggles, and all of a sudden blood will splash as you open up, then to your eyes. Then who knows if a person is HIV positive, then you're going to look for PEP, post-exposure prophylaxis for HIV. Those were serious risks, and they still happen right now. All of you must be oriented on how we don't have enough supplies in these government settings. Equally, the hospital beds, not sure, those of you who have been admitted into hospitals, you've seen our beds are usually very, very old that you can be there and all of a sudden the spring loosens and you're down, you're falling. So the workplace is really not safe. When we go to private facility, now that I have both experience in all the sides, private facility, usually the workplace is usually very safe. The beds are comfortable, the environment is clean. Only that in some facilities also, they have challenges of resources. So isolation of waste, segregation of wastes is usually a challenge. I one time slept in a hotel where I'd moved with my medical products, I mean cannulas, because I was going to treat someone. So when I was checking out of the hotel, I wanted to dispose these materials. And because I know how we are supposed to do this, I couldn't leave them with the hotel because they never had facilities to dispose them. So I asked around where there could be a clinic. They directed me. When I went there with my wastes, I talked to them, to the RSA worker who was there. She became hesitant to take my wastes. She said, no, you cannot be somewhere and then you bring the wastes. Then I asked her, where are you putting your wastes? I can pay for this service. She hesitantly would not show me where she's putting her waste, because I was ready to pay her and dispose the waste I had. She refused. I left when I was thinking she never had where to dispose these wastes. Yet this was a town, and these shops that she uses every day are very hazardous, because if you land on them, they'll pierce you. So I think the workplace environment we have needs more check, a thorough check, looking at the people who regulate labor and then the organizations that take care of the workers.
Thank you so much, Doctor. At this point, let me bring in Goodluck. How is the safety and health right where you work? Are the workers safe? Do you feel safe yourself? Start with that.
Very safe. Yeah, very safe. That's why I said some facilities have the things we need, while others do not have. Now, for example, when you come at my medical center, since you're even near this facility, you will find that when you come to our reception, you will have a very comfortable chair. Like I was telling you, where you can sit comfortably as you wait for a medical worker to see you, put you in a place where you need the care. When you go to our labor wards, for example, your mothers need to be examined, the modern beds. When you go to our admission unit, you find everything a client needs, including when you want, for example, boiling points, they are there. And then you have this place where we dispose all kind of bins. Plus personal safety. Personal safety means some people are not comfortable being exposed to other people. So you find you've been a labor ward when you are alone and no one is in your convenience. You can freely go and shower strip without getting concerned that who is watching. So those are some of the things that are not talked about, but they matter a lot when we come to safety. And then lastly, the mental health. It is something, when we are talking about these things, we ignore that component. But let me tell you, a person's mental health is overall, because the WHO, World Health Organization definition of health is not just the disease. We are looking at the physical, mental, psychosocial aspects. So wherever you are as a client or as a worker, look at how the environment, how they treat you. So for example, for patients, when you go to the government hospital and a doctor shouts at you, that's already a turn off. The client is not safe. There's no safety in that workplace. You in your office, if you do the other job, if your boss gives you tight deadlines and is not compliant, does not want to hear your explanation as to why the report is not ready, then that's not safe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Should I take it on? Thank you very much, everyone, our listeners today and those who are watching us. As a journalist, I can say most of us, when you are leaving work, you are supposed to be putting on a jacket, but you are supposed also to get something to cover your head. For example, when we are covering riots or protests, or even some of these other meetings in places where you are not sure. For example, in areas which are like ghetto-like, anybody can turn up and throw stones. Or if you go to setups like where we have mental patients who are undergoing mental health, for example, like Butabika, you don't know what could happen to you. So I think for me, it all goes back to the leadership in most of the media companies, is that most of the times you find you can't, the leadership looks at you getting a story first, but they forget that you have to be covered, you have to have these other gears that should be able to help you. So that in case you fall down, now most of even our transportation is a challenge. If now you called me that there's a story somewhere, medical interns somewhere, or whatever, anything, politics, all these things, the quickest means of transport is a border. Now, when I'm getting on this border and I'm going to work, or sometimes maybe you are taking the border, you go faster. I don't have a helmet, and I don't have these other equipment that can cover my knees or the body. So I can say 90% of the journalists in this country are not safe when they go in the field.
Thank you so much, Goodluck. Good luck. And I can see the conversation is getting heated up. Let me come to Ronnie. You talked about compensation area. How is this compensation supposed to be paid? What is the process? Because the workers are really suffering. Maybe they don't know how to claim it even.
Thank you so much, Lucky. Maybe before I come into the issue of compensation and how one gets compensated, just I wanted to say something on decent work. When we look at what ILO or International Labour Organization, how it defines decent work, for them, they're looking at the work that if working somewhere and for you to be considered being in a decent workplace, you must be having what we call fair income. Not only fair income, but also where you have a right to associate with the other workers, basically kind of form unions for collective bargaining, and where you have, of course, also what we call social protection. And the social protection, of course, comes into exactly what we're talking about. Now, coming back to the issue of compensation, or how does one get compensated? Compensation minus what you are entitled to, for example, issues of, say, medical. And again, you will allow me speak leaning majorly onto the people who work abroad, because again, that's the area that I know best, even when I'm working here. But again, you'll allow me to speak for the other people. The agreement, you know, for you to safely migrate for work, you must do it through what we call regular means. In other words, you must be known by the government, must be also cleared by the government to know that you. Lucky has traveled, for example, to Turkey, and she's traveled there not as a tourist but also as a worker, and she's going to earn this much, which comes again to what we call fair income. Is that salary going to be? Is it fair income for the job that you're going to do? You know, and all that. So, and some of the things you're entitled to includes medical. Your employer, sorry, must be able to give you medical, and that applies, for example, for people who take say Saudi Arabia. Now, for one to be compensated for either loss of life or injury, it must be work related. And I think that even applies here. I know there's that law, which is the workman's compensation and all that. But for you to get compensated for work purposes, the injury must be related to work. And of course, again, as I said earlier, those are the gaps that are there for one to determine, you know, to be able to issue a report and say, for example, this person got injured in an activity that was related to work. But of course, there are also obvious cases. You know, the obvious cases. If, for example, you're a driver, you went to work as a driver, and you got an accident which the traffic department in that particular country has clearly defined the cause not being you, the driver, then it ideally means that you got the injury while at work, and you must be compensated. When you bring it to the local level here, one thing I know is that if you're not insured, for example, then the workman's compensation comes in place. And again, as I said, if your injury or harm that you could have got must be related to work for you to be able to get compensation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. Dr. Elicana, do you have compensation policies at your workplaces?
You see, in a working environment in Uganda, I have remember the Uganda Workers' Compensation Act. This was done in September 2000 and was reviewed in 2006. So in the healthcare space, This is what we usually refer to. So there are two sides of the coin. In national practice, I mean, if you're an employee of government, health care, when you're sick, you're supposed to seek care in a government facility, which directly means that the health care is for free. However, because of the resource constraints, when clients come in health centers in government, usually you find the supplies are not there, so you're buying things. So in this case, you're spending. However, government does not compensate this kind of a person. So that is on a regular. Whenever you are sick, government does not take care of you directly when it comes to medications, because why they expect you to get the medications, they are not there. This is one side of the coin. However, usually government gives you a very good holiday. For example, if you're sick, you can even get 2 years leave in Ugandan service. So the workers in Uganda are better off treated when it comes to the leave. They give you enough time to recover, work on your problem, come back to work. However, on dangerous circumstances, for example, you remember in COVID-19, the law requires that when a health worker loses their lives, when a worker loses their lives to the service of others, they are compensated. And this is a law that has always been stepped on right off from the many heroes and heroines that have lost their lives. But recently we saw the president look into the law again and directed that we compensate the workers who lost their lives to COVID-19. This includes the damage payments and then their families' welfare, which is going to be taken into action. And this is something that is good, considering what we at the country we had discussed, the Compensation Act. Now, in private practice, let's say private hospitals and then private farms, workers have insurance. Insurance, that is the Workers' Insurance Benefit Act. So whenever you're sick as a worker in private practice, you're supposed to be taken care of with your national insurance that you're given by a company. So whenever you go to a health facility, they will take care of you, even if it is whatever cost. You present your insurance card, they bill the company or the firm that is taking care of you. So whenever you're in a private firm and you don't have insurance, already that is something they are stepping on your rights. You need this because the moment you get out there with a risk, with an injury or something, then it's going to be hard. Now at my facility, as workers, we are protected. We are insured. Whenever I fall sick, my medical care is there. Whenever I'm on the road, I'm sure whenever I get a problem, I have to report to my boss. I get compensated. Same thing with the journalists who just mentioned their issue. Recently, I saw journalists covering a strike, and they were being given, I think, tear gas. They were being sprayed, and none of them had goggles. So the PPE, personal protective equipment, which is part of the work, is not there. So in that case, when you leave that field, where you've been pepper sprayed, you need to be taken care of. You need to go to the hospital, they wash your eyes with saline so that you get a clean environment, so that your eyes can restore in a few hours. That's something where it's supposed to be protected. So to me, some of the facilities and some of the farms have protection, have these insurance laws, have compensation policies, whereas others do not have them. And the challenge is always on the regulations. How are the laws followed up? These acts, who cares to listen that this was said and this is not being done? Sometimes there is a matter of threats. So if this journalist raises a concern, they'll be summoned by the boss. And now the next day they will never talk about this, and work continues like this. So let us strive, all of us, to create a better working environment where we work by being our own advocates, our own agents, but also if we are bosses, then the people who work for us, because this is the only way we can have efficiency at work.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elicana. Musinguzi, good luck. Do you want to talk about it? No,
I think for us, we don't have. We don't have. It's very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate for the media. But I'm in the workers' movement. We have a union, Uganda Journalists Union. It is supposed to be fighting for us, and but work ethics in the deployment and whatever, getting a job and not getting it in the media sector is something where we find we are at the mercy of the employers. Young people will come and say, whatever you give me, I'll do it. Let me sit here. So ours is not like clearly defined, but I have had an opportunity to go to other sectors where I went with the former chairman of NOTU. I remember there's a worker in the industrial area got issues, and the employers were Indians were trying to threaten him, but we had to come in quickly. So they called a few of us to go and visit this place. And when they saw us, there was some form of panic, but they committed to make sure that this worker gets all the support they need. But also recently, if you had, there was a security guard who was a driver or something who was beaten. He died, but eventually people used money to get out of, and the family was not compensated. So in terms of the stories we cover, unfortunately, we die alone. We don't have enough speak. The leadership, if there's enemy, some leadership, by so even before we reach compensation, at least let's have said, Dr. Elicana said, I really saw when the policeman was spraying paper in the eyes of this journalist. And unfortunately or fortunate is that after 2 days, he was again on the road working. So, but you can see the danger. And the only problem we have, when state actors do these things and nothing happens, there are people who are non-state actors. They will beat you, then somebody will say, who told you to go there? The compensation will not be there. The media is one place where people are breeding. Very unfortunate that even us in our subgroups, in our meetings, we ask, why do we care about other people before we care about ourselves? But it's because of the nature of the structure, the way we are structured. When we get these jobs, sometimes we hold on to them. We don't want to let them, even when there are violations, you keep quiet, and yet we are a voice for other people. Thank you very much.
Viewers of the Civic Space TV, I want to remind you that you can still follow these conversations using the hashtag Civic Space TV. And for this show in particular, it's Community Voices UG. And today we are talking about the safety and health of the workers and their workplaces as we celebrate the Labor Day. From the various conversations, we have heard that in order to have working environment where workers are comfortable, more efficient, productive, while they don't feel exhausted and stressed, there is a need to have a conducive working environment. I will once again invite my panelists to tell us what should be done on these workplaces, what needs to be improved. And to start with, I will go with Dr. Elicana. What needs to be improved on the workplaces?
Yeah, thank you very much, our host, Lucky. And what should be on the workplace? Let's look at two dimensions. We have the big industries and small industries. So the big industries, in this case, I'm looking at big farms, let's say a government hospital, private hospital, a big medical center, then the factories, those are the big farms. Then we have the small industries, the small farms. For example, someone who has a chapat store and is employing 3 people. Then we have people who are doing border. Those are small scale industries. So each of those is a workplace. Each of those is a workplace and has its specific needs. So I will answer this one in line with the occupational health program. Occupational health program. So with whatever work you're doing, what are you supposed to be having in regards to that work? If I start with the hospital setting, since our priority is patients, then I will start with patients first. So what should be there for patients to be comfortable in a hospital setting? One, the adequate furniture, which is standard. We have standard furniture for patients. If a patient is waiting, we need comfortable seats. A seat which is not liable to a fall. We need a seat which is clean, where you have disinfected. For example, if a patient has been bleeding and is removed from the seat, then that has to be cleaned, because if you come as another patient and sit there, then you are able to get infectious agents. Then if we go to hospital beds, the beds of different formats. We need an adjustable bed, which a patient can adjust to fit their needs. Like patients who have heart problems, they need beds which are a bit raised, like they need kind of a pillow in a bed. So we need a bed which has to be raised. So when you go to a hospital setting and you find maybe they have wooden beds that cannot give you a pillow kind of environment, that's not safe for you. However, we need a very good mental environment for this very patient. So for example, in a hospital setting, we expect there to be televisions where a client can be watching so that their mental can be brought to peace. They should not be thinking a lot. You need something to keep them comfortable. If you go to children wards, we need like balloons. You need to put some balloons, some stickers on the walls so that young children can just be kept at peace. Now, for himself, for the doctors, nurses, midwives, dentists, all the health workers, their major focus is personal protective equipment. Everyone at work, including now this other these journalists, personal protective equipment. What is a personal protective equipment? The devices you use daily at your workplace to protect yourself from injury and risk of contacting disease-causing agents. So when we say injury, it can be a fall, but then we also have diseases. For example, we used to know in COVID time that when you go near a COVID person and you shake hands, and then you exchange air, which means you have no gloves, you have no mask, then you're going to get COVID. So they range from gloves for most of us, even border people, they have wooden gloves. Then cleaners have these rubber-like gloves. Then other health workers have these usual gloves, the sterile gloves, and then the disposable gloves. Then we have helmets, even for people in the factories. Then we have goggles, like I talked about, to prevent eye sprays. We have masks. Usually we have hearing protection agents. For example, when you're going to an area where there's too much loud music, you need to be protected like a DJ, you need hearing aids. Then we need safety shoes. People working in factories, people working on the load, you need safety shoes, because usually we have those nails, we have stones on the load, so you're not safe. Then for health workers, we need shoes that cover. And then even as the workers, sometimes we don't do these things, yet they are there. For example, a doctor, if you're supposed to appear in shoes, you come home when you're in open shoes. So whenever you get that injury, it is really not about the working environment. It's now you as a health worker. Why do you don't come with the shoes when you know that you're supposed to come with closed shoes? Why do you choose to come in open shoes? And then the other small industries now, like border, then the chapat store people, then the shops which employ people. The things we need, the most important part, me in Uganda, I see, is the part of the physical mental component. Bosses are harsh at work. We have gotten clients who come to the medical center looking for health care when their problem is actually the mental. It is not, they don't have any infection, they have not been pierced by a nail, they are just mentally stressed. Someone comes when they have like malaria, you test everything, you get history, then finally you discover a component that points to the fact that the person is really fatigued. They've been working 24 hours, no rest. You know, the bosses speaks as if they are speaking to animals. This is something that I think we need to embrace. And this is the core for the labor organizations in Uganda. The workers' union, you need to advocate for mental health of the workers. It's a very paramount issue. Whether they are healthy workers, they are stressed at work because they work many hours, they are few, they have no money to give them food. Imagine you're working, let's say for doctors, you're operating the whole night on people's lives and you are hungry, you have not eaten. It's something that is very dangerous. Someone who said they go to the field as journalists. Imagine you're covering a scene the whole day, no lunch, no meal, no water. They are stressed. It is what I'm calling upon. So what we can focus on, apart from the personal protective equipment at all workplaces, let's put policies that look at mental health of the workers. In this case, I mean, reduce on the working load, increase the workers' pay, for example, the compensation program, let them have rest, and always do the daily meetings, daily reviews, so that people can open up and talk about where they have problems. And then finally, if some worker needs help, refer them to appropriate center, whether it is counseling in this case, whether they have maybe gotten contacted the disease and they need latest HIV and they need counseling, take them there. Or even if it is mental health and they need like Butabika, refer properly and follow them up so that they see that they are cared for. Usually what we all need is the care. You need this kind of person who will show that they are concerned about your life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Like the story says, little care goes way far beyond what you can imagine. Ronnie, what should be done?
Yeah, thank you so much, Lucky. Actually, I would like to thank my brother, Dr. Elicana. He has more or less said it all. However, you'll just allow me to re-emphasize on a few things. For example, the issue of policy. That should be a must. As I said earlier, we have a whole department of OSH in the Ministry of Labor, whose mandate, whose role should be to enforce these issues we're talking about. For example, you still get surprised when you hear not very far, these factories just within town, within the city here, that workers are there without protective gear. So the ministry or that whole department, even if it's an issue of financial capacity that they could be lacking, they need to put it out clearly so the people, the public is able to know, and for where pressure is to be put, for example, if it's parliament that is required to appropriate money and give these guys money to be able to do their supervisory role, it should be done. The other thing is the issue of protective gear. Just to re-emphasize again, just as the doctor said, for example, we have people like our people who go abroad, majorly those who are doing domestic work. Those countries, for example, Saudi Arabia, is a bit adverse compared to what our country, Uganda, has. And for that matter, there are certain things they use that for us we dream of. When it comes to, say, washing the utensils, there's a chemical that they use, I think it's called chlorate or something like that, which takes away the fat, and it's put in a dishwasher, put there, and then things are washed, But of course, we also know that it being put there is put by a person, and even those dishes are picked by a person. So the agreement that is put in place is that these people must wear protective gear, must wear gloves, certain gloves, when they are going to undertake this particular assignment. And because we know that chemical is harmful, it burns and all that. So ensuring that that is put in place again falls under what we call policy. For example, as I said earlier, if you have agreed diplomatically between country A and country B, country of origin and country of destination, that I'll send you my people, the people I'll send you are ready to work, the people I'm sending you are fit to work. What you need to do, you as the receiving country, is to ensure that their safety, their rights are observed, meaning their payment is done as agreed, their insurance, for example, medical insurance is given when they fall sick, their protection in terms of giving protection gear, protective gear is concerned, is observed. So who enforces that? And me, ideally, that's big, because for us, we deal with reality. We deal with people who are the other side. We see the things. Now, that gap must be filled. When you bring it down to our normal setting here, doctor mentioned very well the insurance, for example. If you are not under, say, government, you must have insurance. Your employer must give you insurance. But is that being done? Is government, through that particular minister, through that particular department, ensuring that every worker who is formally, whether, even if I stick to the ones who are working formally in particular companies, in particular organizations, do they have this insurance, first of all? So once these things are not emphasized, then we're likely to continue having these challenges. And of course, we call upon the respective authorities, and of course also the public. You know, sometimes the public now have come to realize that the public has so much power that it can push and then a certain thing be achieved. So we call upon the authorities and of course the public to put pressure on the authorities that to ensure that these policies are not just on paper, but they are actually operationalized. Lucky, that is what I could say for now.
Thank you so much. And before you could just go, I want to ask you something small. We already see cases of the people who are brought being harassed, going through all these injuries, mentally, physically, mention it. Are they aware of the rights before they are taken to work? Are they sensitized? Do they know what they need to demand for, or do they know what is in for them as they?
Yeah, thank you once again. At the start of this conversation, I did mention that for whoever regularly migrates for work, regularly we mean those who are known, you know, those who have been cleared by the government, those who are going through the formal ways, undergo what we call 14 days orientation. And this is not done by anyone or done through anything. They are done through accredited, government accredited training centers. And they have specific approved curriculum. This curriculum, I just mentioned, I think about 2 or 3 things. Then I talked of the culture. I talked of financial literacy. I talked of contract appreciation. Now, under contract appreciation, these intending migrant workers are taken through what is the obligation, what is the obligation of the employer, what is the obligation of the local company, and what is the obligation of the other company. In other words, they're taken on what they're supposed to do and what is entitled to them. And of course, also given contacts, but also areas where they can report or they can seek audience for where ABCD not being observed. Now, we hear outcries from the people working abroad, but also we must know that the Ugandans, there are so many Ugandans who go to work abroad irregularly. And I will give you statistics. You will allow me, it may be a bit broad, but I'll give you such, you can be able to understand what I'm talking about. For example, the government of Uganda only clears Ugandan females to work as domestic workers or maids to only going to those only going to Saudi Arabia. We know very well there are over 100,000 Ugandans or females in this particular case in a country called Oman, working as domestic workers who, as I said, have never been cleared by the government of Uganda. So these have gone through different ways. The same applies to UAE. We saw some people being repatriated last year in September, some getting stuck. They were stuck because their travel was irregular. What am I trying to mean? That when you go irregularly, you are not taken through this training. You do not know what is your right. You do not know where to complain. And because the employer, the other side, for example, in Oman, who just received you off the street, will not give you this protection, will not give you the medical care, will not give the cover that you're entitled to, will not give you this protection that we're talking, the protection gear that we're talking about, because they know anyway, they got you anyhow, and there's no one who can question them on your well-being or your status. So it is true, we get these outcries, but majority are from those that have traveled regularly. Now, for those that have traveled regularly and still experience these challenges where they are not given what they're supposed to have, when they report, because they are told, as you asked, they are told of the reporting mechanism and are being monitored, because there is a team that always checks on these people to find out their status. That team is based at the embassy, for example, in Riyadh. And when they report, you see people actually use now different means. Some opt to first go on social media, then eventually they go to the formal way, and sometimes these are the leaks that you get in the public. But even when we get to know, and the person has actually gone through the right way, the employer is taken under the law to offer what they are not offering, but are supposed to offer. So that is what is being done. The people are taken through the training, they are equipped with what they are supposed to do, but also what is entitled to them and how to report for purposes for where they're not getting what they're entitled to. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure you are watching this show has really learned something, especially about the labor codes outside those that come to the good luck. What is to be done to make the working environment a bit more safe and better than it is now?
Thank you very much. I think I am enjoying what I'm hearing from the other sectors, but from our side, it's work in progress. I think I hope Civic Space TV lights that little candle in the vast wilderness or darkness, because us in the media sector, it is only sometimes when we go for elections. If you watch the last elections, especially journalists who followed Bobby Wine, I think they tried to get some jeers because the attacks on them were so many. But I think we need that tiny candle where we say at least workers of this institution, AB, or maybe let me name them. Let's say New Vision, which has the big money, maybe Monitor, Data Monitor. But we haven't seen any company, even these other television stations, we don't see them really putting safety of journalists first. And for me, I agree with everyone who has been speaking that compensating and treating a person who has gotten injuries is much more expensive than the GIA we are talking about. So for me, I really don't know why if I have 100 workers or 10 workers, at least in 3 months, let's buy GIA for one person. But here we are talking of I'm making 25 years in media. I can assure you, if somebody started 25 years ago, at least one GIA a year, they would have covered 25 workers. But it has not happened. So safety in media is something that is on the periphery. It is something that is not talked about. You could hear the doctor said, indeed, some of us, most of us go to some of these fields hungry, tired, stressed. And when you bring in the issues of safety, then I don't know, some people will look at you and say, are you coming from Mars? So as we celebrate Labor Day, I think it goes back, and for me, I would want to speak to the media owners and even the public to know that, by the way, if the media owners can't help, maybe the public can donate. But I can tell you, most of our young people, young men and girls go out and they are not secured in any way. And mostly when they get issues, they fall off one by one. You never hear them again. You know, the public has a way of saying, oh, we used to hear so and so. So nobody will ever look for you. So we don't have contracts. That is the other issue. Maybe if there was even an element of having contracts, then you would say maybe we would ask for we would ensure that our rights are enforced. But so even the basics have not been done. Now, when we ask for safety, very unfortunate that in some other sectors, there's big advance. When you go to some of these factories, people are given boots, people are given what, headgear, what. But for us, even a mask, even a goggle, like you saw, a policeman, for some reasons, decides to say, you must leave, and here you're doing your work. The next time you hear somebody spraying something in your eyes, what happens? So I think, thank you very much, Civic Space TV, for shining a torch on this issue. And I hope in the coming years, in the coming month, we should be able to see a journalist putting on GIA at a function, and we all be proud that maybe the media. If you have seen the soldiers, the policemen, you remember a policeman, the policeman Alyong, who was stoned to death, I think Rumumba Avenue or something, when there were demonstrations. He died, but from that time, the police has tried to equip their people. The army, when you see them out there, recently I was covering the soldiers who are going to Congo for the peacekeeping mission at Bunagana. I can tell you the function had started, but in 30 minutes, it starts raining heavy. No soldier left where they were standing. They just pulled their gear, put on a jacket that was covering them, keeps them warm, but there's no water that goes inside. Now, for us, we could only go to tents which were being blown by wind. So you look at, so for me, I want to see that journalist who goes to the field, and we be proud of them, that maybe the media houses have started looking at the GIA. So when it starts raining, I have a jacket. When they start throwing stones, I'm able to put on something to cover my head and maybe the other body. Thank you very much, and happy Labor Day.
Thank you so much. Viewer of the Civic Space TV, I remind you that you can still follow this conversation using the hashtag Civic Space TV and another hashtag Community Voices UG. As we celebrate Labor Day, we know the history of Labor Day. It was put there to commemorate the wonderful works, the achievement of the labor movement, and to honor the value of labor. In the remaining minutes, I'll invite my panelists to talk about those achievements. Is that something you're proud of? You're like, yes, this gives me a reason to celebrate Labor Day. I'll start with Dr. Elicana. That's something you're proud of.
Yeah, I'm so much proud of the Ugandan healthcare workers. for the good work we did in the COVID-19 time, which was seen globally from the facts already raised, from the challenges of resources we struggle with every day. We were able to put out our energy together, work, and see that whoever came into the health care setting of whatever case, whether private or government, they were taken care of and most of their lives restored. It was so much good work. It was not easy dealing with the virus, with all the little monies the country had, and I'm happy that the people actually lived the life and now have testimonies to tell. I'm so much proud of the Ugandan health care workers. However, I'm also proud of this other support team, the drivers on the road, the border people who used to go against the mandatory lockdowns, and they transport people so that they can get the care. Because the bureaucracy used to be a problem. Someone is sick, you have to look for the chairman or see one, give you a permit. But some people would really get the patient direct, even when they would put their life at risk, because being gotten on the road by police people would be a risk. However, they helped us to get the patients in time and take care of them. So I really celebrate them, and I'm so much proud of all the work we have done in this sector.
Great, amazing. Ronnie, what is that thing you're proud of?
Thank you so much, Lucky. To me, I'm so proud of our companies. Why? Because amidst the challenge of unemployment and underemployment that we experience heavily here in Uganda, have put in a lot of effort to source for employment for Ugandans to work abroad. And here we're talking of over 88,000 Ugandans who got this opportunity to go and work abroad just in the year that ended December 2022. And 2021, we externalized over 89,000 Ugandans to work. But most importantly, I am very proud of these particular Ugandans who work abroad, who have left so much in their home country to dedicate their lives and work and send over 1.3 billion US annually to the Ugandan economy to take care of their families, to change the lives of so many of their dependents. I cannot be more proud, surely, than that, because these sacrifice a lot. There are so many people who would want to go, but they have so many things that are holding them. They think maybe they will leave their families here and what, but these people have put their lives at all that is being said and have agreed and have accepted to go and work and send so much that has changed the economy of Uganda, but also the lives of their people and their own lives. I cannot say much other than wish them the happiest Labor Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. Good luck. Those achievements that you feel proud associated with.
Thank you very much. I want to say, to echo what Dr. Elicana Nduhuura has said. Like 5 years ago, my wife got pressure while producing, and it became evident that we had sprint seconds. She was almost going to die. She went in coma for 9 days, lost her memory for almost a year. And here we were being worked on by doctors. If there are people I appreciate, where I feel that even my pain cannot help, even my knowledge and my money, whatever, if I have it anyway. But you will go to this health center, despite the challenges that are there. Yesterday, I was following a meeting that is happening in London. We were named among that are very active in disease surveillance, meaning it doesn't take so many. If you saw what Ebola did in Liberia or in West Africa, and we managed to defeat Ebola in 69 days. Now, going back to my issue, that's when I felt that the health workers are people who have been trained, given special skills next to God, people who can bring back a life. I can tell you, I saw somebody double their size, and every other minute I would ask, still alive, and here we are 5 years. So I think for me, every other day I wake up, the people we need to keep looking at and appreciate as a country. I have an opportunity to follow maternal mortality audits and malaria audits. When they tell you, when they are giving these reports, you see what they do on one person, even before that person died, how they receive them, even the simplest things, recording the time they came, how long they have been at a place, what they did, what they infused, and whatever they did. It's an amazing work. And I have a feeling that if our country can get more resources, please, the doctors, the health workers, though I don't want to speak one side, most of them, sometimes they are rude, they talk badly, that one is something simple. I know they feel so bad when they can't find gloves and all these things. For me, they are my best people. Then our security forces, I can say those people who sleep outside for us, I'm proud of them. To the journalists who shine a torch. That's why if Civic Space TV was not there, we wouldn't be speaking on this Labor Day, talking about some of these challenges that need solutions. So, and as they said, those people who send the dollars so that we are able to survive. So I can never say, I have had an opportunity to go around this world, and I can never say there's any country that is better than Uganda. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Indeed, we are the Pearl of Africa. I will invite each one of us to give our parting shots and that Labor Day message that you feel shouldn't be left out. Let me start with Ronnie.
Thank you, Lucky. Just as I said, of course, we know there are so many challenges relating to work. Of course, the safety of us workers and the other people also help get work. But that aside, I would like to wish all the workers happiest Labor Day. And of course, we know there are challenges, but we shouldn't give up. There's so much. When my brother here, Musinguzi, was talking of doctors, I was just reflecting COVID alone, you know, how people were dying, but the doctors were there, you know. They are such, when all of us were staying home, for them, they were not staying home. So there's really a lot that different people, God has gifted, do different things, and we really appreciate. And who am I not to wish them the happiest of Labor Day? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Elicana.
Thank you very much, Lucky, for hosting us. May I want just to put a matter of national safety. Wherever you go as a person, whether you're going as a client or you're going to give labor, orient yourself at the place of work you've gone to. If it's a lab, learn the basics, learn the rules. Don't put yourself to danger, and don't allow a person working with you to put you in danger. And as workers, laborers, let's know our contracts. Let's know what's supposed to be at the workplace so that you make sure it is there. If it's not there, the only option you have is to be your own voice. Speak out. As a society, we shall always join you. And the rest of us, let's be change agents. Remember, an injustice to someone is an injustice to all of us. It will come to you. So let's speak up. Lady has the power. We can join and make the labor environment a good working environment. And finally, let me wish all of you here, the panelists and the moderator, and then the rest of us as a community, a wonderful Labor Day. God bless you.
Good luck.
On this Labor Day, I want to add my voice to those who are listening to us. You could be that person that sweeps the road. I see every day KCCA workers by 6 they are cleaning our roads. You could be that person who makes a chapati. I was in Bujidi for Malaria Day, and the only meal I could pick on the way was a chapati. Was to those people who work at Namawojoro and some of these places. We might never think of those people who clean our toilets, those people who make sure that we don't catch disease, those doctors who work in the night. We want to say thank you. And we can never say thank you because we don't have enough resources to pay you. But for me on this Labor Day, and most especially after COVID, is that so much has changed. The world's economies are contracting. We would wish to have better lives, but unfortunately, it will take some good time for us to pick up ourselves and go back where we were. So we pray that we all have that, the patience. As workers, have patience in front of your boss, but also hopefully let the bosses also have the patience when the workers have issues, and let's enjoy our life in this country. And to the farmers, if there is a time I got stuck around Nateta around 2 a.m. and I saw trucks of food, trucks bringing in animals, matoke, all that. I looked at these special people who, when all of us are sleeping, they are distributing food to all the centers in this city. So that we are able to get what to eat and survive. If you remember during COVID, one of the things that made us survive was the food. The food was as cheap as anything. So I have a feeling that as a person, that on this day, I send my special messages to you, to the teachers, and by also to the NGOs in this world, who also keep eyes to make sure that the rights of the people, because you see, we might be there and we say that everything is fine, but until when you have an issue and you want somebody to fight for. So at Civic Space TV, thanks very much. Can I say happy Labor Day, Dr. Sarah Birete, Lake, Monica, and the others. Thank you very much. Happy Labor Day.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, a wonderful panel and the viewers of the Civic Space TV. My last words would be to the employers: if you can't work in that environment, trust me, you wouldn't want your employees to be in that same space. So let us make this world better. Let us make the workplaces better, and let us all do in our power to make sure our neighbors are safe and we are safe. From us to you, it's a happy Labor Day. Remember to follow us on YouTube at Civic Space. We are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, on all social medias. The hashtag is Civic Space TV and Community Voices UG. Have a good day, and for God and my country.